Hi, thanks for joining us. I'm here today with Allie Fisher with Let's Meal Talk. Super excited. Thanks again for joining.
Yes,
I know
excited to be here.
this is out of the ordinary, but I really appreciate your time. Would love to hear your story. Would love for our users to hear your story. I'm a big fan of what you're doing. I was actually snooping around your website last night and spent some time on your recipe page.
Oh, thanks.
You got hungry within like 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh, good. I'm glad.
I had to go to my pantry immediately. But, so yeah, Allie has a meal planning business. It's kind of turned into like a whole nutrition, family planning and that kind of thing, right? Am I explaining that correctly?
Yeah.
So I would love to hear your story, kind of how, your background, how you got to where you're at now, the launching of the company, and then what you currently offer.
Yeah. I don't even know where to start. I feel like it's been a blur. I'm like just approaching 2 years into the business, which as like a newer business owner, like the chaos that goes up and down and like trying to start something. And I think it originally started, I used to work full time and I was in a marketing position. I had 3 kids pretty close together. We had like 3 under 4. And so I think after my 3rd baby, I realized pretty quickly, like this is not sustainable to have 2 full-time working parents and just the capacity that you shoulder as especially a mom sometimes. Husbands, I know, help with so much, but sometimes I just felt like the mental load of like running the house and the food for the kids, plus your own business is a lot. So I took a step back and just tried to look at what I'm passionate about. And I feel like when I started having kids, food became like an instant creative outlet for me. Like I feel like I really needed something outside of just motherhood and work. And so the kitchen kind of just like became my safe space and my outlet when I was in the throes of like having babies. And I really just started pouring into that more and more. And so when I thought about like leaving a job and being a stay-at-home mom, but still feeling like I needed something to just have that is mine and that is a creative outlet, I was just like, I'll start a food blog. That's what everyone's doing. So why not do something on social media? But I knew I wanted it to be a little bit different. Like I didn't just want to be a traditional recipe page or a recipe blog that everyone, because number one, it's super saturated. It's really hard to like compete in that space. There are amazing, incredible food blogs out there with millions of followers. So it was definitely intimidating to like start in that space. And where I found food being really beneficial to my family was in the form of meal prepping. And I didn't see a lot of that out there. It's kind of like a small random niche, to be honest. But when I looked at what I guess I would consider my competitors or people that inspired me in the space, it was more like super duplicative recipes, like traditional meal prepping style, where it's like you make a bulk of like 5 dishes and you eat that every single day for 5 days for, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Whereas that gets really boring to me and kids don't like stuff. So you need to constantly have variety and try new things. So my meal prep style was a lot of like healthy, whole food, really like nutrient-dense dishes and prepping ingredients, and then utilizing those to create a variety of dishes throughout your week in an easy way. So I feel like that was kind of my mindset of my business. Like I want to do a blog, I want to do recipes, I want it to be healthy, but I want it to be different. And so thus became Meal Talk. And I think the name of Meal Talk really came out of the real talk of meals and healthy eating. And I remember I was on like a walk one day in my neighborhood, just like racking my brain on like, how do I want this to, like, what do I want this to look like? What do I want to tell people? And in my mind, I was like, I just want this to be like the real talk of like the family dinner table. Like I'm not going to be that curated influencer, if you will, that like has like my hair and makeup's gonna be perfect when I'm like cooking this meal for my family, or like my kids' toys have to be like pushed away from like the background scenes. Like it's just gonna be real family mealtime.
More authentic that
Yeah,
way. Sure.
Yeah. Not because I don't think the influencers who do that have credibility. Like I love their videos and they're amazing, but I'm just truly in the season of life where I'm like, I'm literally throwing dinner together like on the family table like tonight. So like when you get a picture, it's going to be like with everything in the background because that's literally what's happening. I can't like hide my family and be like, here's a perfect presented meal. So I wanted it to be really real and the real talk of like what it means to have like healthy, nutritional, like family dinners together in an efficient and an enjoyable way where it's not just like pulling your hair out stress of like, I just got home from work, I need to get dinner on the table and kids are screaming, this isn't fun or enjoyable. I feel like there is a balance and it took me a couple of years to find that. But the more I meal prepped and thought really intentionally about my food plans for my family, the like easier it became to pull meals together and put dinner on the table for the family and actually enjoy it. And so I wanted to recreate that for my followers and people to say, like, this can be approachable to you. And yes, it's inspiring and aspirational and sometimes a little bit too much. Some people are like, how do you do this? Like, I just can't. Like, there's no way. This is like almost not, it's too aspirational. But I'm hoping that with my recipes and how I set them up for people, and the more people follow me, they can realize, like, okay, I can do this. Like, I can get confident in the kitchen. It can reignite excitement for me to like pull meals together and actually like do this thing and sustain these habits. Was really long.
No, I love it. Yeah, actually, it's your content's super relatable too. I mean, that's what I love about it. It's it's organic. It feels authentic. Like,
Yeah.
I'm with you. I relate to that more than like you said, the perfectly done kitchen and the amazing house.
Yeah.
And, everything's clean and stuff.
Yeah.
That's nice. It's nothing against that, but for me personally, I relate more to like the true messages.
Yeah.
You are pulling your hair out. It is hard.
Mhm.
It's hard with kids. You don't have time. How do you do this? And just to have that kind of voice and your expertise kind of guiding people through that is amazing, I think.
Yeah.
As a parent myself, I've definitely put more attention into what we feed our kids, and we're trying more. We do, I would say, a below average job. It's just kind of survival mode right now, but so that's why I see so much value in what you're doing. Just the time is so difficult for, I would imagine, just about every parent out there. So
Yeah.
having someone like that with your expertise, with your knowledge of the food industry, is amazing. So
Yeah.
So year 2 of the business. Actually, I was going to
Yeah.
ask you about the name. That's one of the questions I had.
So nice.
glad you brought
Did I
that up.
explain that well enough?
Yeah.
Real
it's
Talk,
amazing.
Meal Talk. If you go to my website,
love
it
it.
kind of explains it more. But yeah, just
Yeah.
the real talk of meal talk
Great.
and healthy food.
So the first 2 years, maybe talk to me about that. What have you learned? What are some of the challenges you faced?
Yeah.
How did you overcome them?
Yeah. A lot. I've definitely learned a lot. I feel like just firstly, like putting yourself out there. That's like the crazy thing about starting a business these days that
Right.
I know you and I have talked about before. It's crazy that you aren't like a name or a brand unless you have a social media following. Like, you could have an incredible product, a beautiful website, like pour so much into like the service or the product you provide, but literally unless people, you almost don't have credibility unless you have like a social media following. So that was like first step was like, I have to make a handle that's like dedicated to what I do and what I am. And so just like learning the ropes of social media, which also changes all the time too, has been challenging to me. You're putting yourself out there. You don't know if people like it. Like, something will totally take off and resonate with people. Others will just like flop, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'll never do that again, even though it maybe just wasn't the right audience. So that ebb and flow, I think, has been the biggest challenge and learning curve for me, is just finding like my style and voice. Obviously, you get a lot of inspo from other creators on the platform, but you also want to stand out. You don't want to just like copy and paste what someone else does. So it's like a constant balance of seeing what works in your space, which also there's not a lot of people in my space. There certainly is in the food blogging front and like sharing recipes, but when it comes to how to meal prep and like meal prepping, the meal prepping niche that I talked about, like, it's just, there's not a lot out there. And what is out there is not what I want to be. So I think that was, again, the most fun, the most challenging, but also like the hardest to figure out, is like, how do I find my voice and my personality? And I'm still learning that. I feel like it's also changed. Like, as I had another baby, like in that season, like when I first started Meal Talk, my littlest was only 3 months old. And so he's been in the kitchen with me since I was like
Wow.
still breastfeeding him and managing his nap schedules. And he was cooking with me. And so it's fun to even look back on my videos and see like pretty much like a baby on my hip, or like plastered to me with like a terrier, like cooking and stuff, and just like not thinking, like, now as my audience, they're probably like, why does she have a baby strapped to her? Like, I can't focus on what she's saying because this like baby's head is like poking out the side. And now he's like in the background running around or like helping me chop a banana. And so I think it's fun to like see me grow in that way, and just also hopefully my audience resonate with like, it's okay for content changes, or as her babies get older, like I'll probably focus less on like how to prep toddler food and baby food, but more of like how to get kids' school lunches out the door. And so I think I'm really trying to focus on just overcoming, I guess, like the comparison in social media, and like what is successful and what's not, and what are people thinking, and just be authentic to my season of life, because it's always going to resonate with someone. And sure, I'll lose followers because they're like, I'm just not in that stage that she's in. I don't have the capacity that she has. Like, this isn't going to be for me right now, which is totally fine because I was in that space too at some point. And so I think just being authentic to myself and trying to like capitalize on my story that, again, I know will resonate with someone in their season of life, like at different points, and just trying to be like relevant, authentically relevant to people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think you said something there that like you said, we've talked about, just putting yourself out there, you know.
Yeah.
So that was one of the hardest things for me, and still is, just, you know, I'm naturally a more shy person, and to always be like trying things and failing and trying things and failing, or this works now, perfecting that and kind of going that route is definitely like a muscle that you work and you build.
It's weird. Yeah.
It is strange. I know.
But there's so many people that can relate to that from the audience standpoint, but also there are a lot of, there's an equal amount of creators as consumers, or like content creators and consumers. So it's at least we're not alone type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So most of your time is spent on social. That's kind of your marketing angle is, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have my website, which I think, and that's, I guess, when we talk about challenges and growth and stuff, I feel like that is an opportunity for me. And so even doing this podcast is an awesome step out of my comfort zone, because I am kind of just stuck in my bubble of like my kitchen and my camera and my social media page and then my website. But I do want to have like collaborations and, you know, work on some of the things I see other elevated creators doing that I'm like, I want to get to that point eventually, but I'm not quite there yet. And so whether it's having my website where I have members that actually like view my recipes, so it's not just tied to Instagram, because that's the other thing. It's hard to lock yourself into one channel, because like, not to say it will, but Instagram could be like gone tomorrow or shut down, or who knows what will happen. So I want to be able to have the proper audience and like my newsletter subscribers and people that are loyal to me in other channels, so that I always have different touch points with them. But when you're like a one-person show, that's hard too.
Hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job in itself.
It is. Yeah. So to be thinking like, I can barely like bust out a reel or a recipe today, let alone like business plan, and try to be like, okay, what's the next channel I'm going to touch? Or like, have I updated my website? I have to get back to that email from that one collaborator that wanted to, that I never got back to.
I think my day yesterday was spent learning about sales tax rules and laws and doing that.
Yeah.
Posting content to
I know.
customer service issue to just everything. You're just all over the place. But it is, you know,
it's challenging.
You learn a lot.
I know.
Sure, so.
I saw a reel the other day, actually, that was like I follow some like small business, like funny small business accounts too, because I feel like that helps me too, just to be relevant and be like, yeah, that was my day yesterday. And this like one, it was like a pottery one, and she was just like, when small businesses say we, like this is what we mean. And it's like, she put on like 5 different wigs and was like product developer, sourcer, CSO, CEO. And it's like, that's how you feel sometimes.
Like developing a multiple personality.
Totally. Yes. Like different wig, different outfit. Like, okay, I'm that sales manager today.
That's why can you send that to me?
It's funny. It is. Yeah.
So now you get to the point where someone wants to work with you, right? They see your content. They're like, okay, I need this in my life. Like, what happens next?
Yeah. Good question. And I feel like I'm actually learning that. I'm like going through a learning curve of that as well, with my followers, because I feel like, to be honest, when people first follow me or are exposed to me, whether it's through word of mouth or through the Explore page or even just direct to my website, it takes, I guess, my sales cycle, if you will, takes a long time. Like for people to get like bought into my like meal prep routine, they either fall off really quickly and they're like, this is too much. It's again, like too aspirational, or I just don't have the capacity for this right now. Like love the idea of it, but it's not going to work in my lifestyle. And so it really takes people, like of the people who personally reach out to me, which I love these messages, it'll usually start with something like, hey, I've been following you for like several months now, and I'm like really interested in how you X, Y, and Z. Or, hey, I'm like, this has been like so inspiring. Like I never thought I could have the capacity to like fresh make X, Y, and Z, but I just did it for like 3 weeks in a row, and I'm like proud of myself. So thank you for like that inspo.
That's awesome.
And those messages just like warm my heart, but I'm realizing it definitely, like my cycle of someone being like bought into what I'm doing is